My roguelike game is all about melee combat where you can just go crazy, but it's missing a way for you to make some choices and feel like you are going somewhere, progressing. So today I'll be making maps. All cartography enjoyers, you are about to eat well. So, most roguelike games have their own map implemented in some sort of way because they do an amazing job at giving you options to pick from, information to strategize, and also give you a sense of progression. Now that I have shown off all these cool and polished maps, it's time to show off my creation. Don't judge. You are gonna have to trust the process. I want to use sprites instead of UI images. The difference between them is that sprites allow me to use sprite mask, which I will use to add textures over the terrain, and it will also make layering everything much easier. However, by choosing sprites I had to make my own interaction system by making clickable objects where I just use physics colliders, layer mask and raycasting. So the next move is to make it look decent. I made these map pieces which I'm gonna call locations. While making them, I was thinking of ways I could easily make a shit ton of them in the future, and I ended up with this Lego building process. We have the ground base, then textures that are laid over it, like these beds, then the scenery objects that will give you information of what the encounter might contain. Most of these scenery objects have their animation or whatever, like these trees moving to the wind, house chimneys blowing smoke, but this happens only in the selected location. For the uninteractable locations, I made a custom shader that applies a distortion effect that I made following a tutorial. My side after one beer. My side after this bottle. Each location also has an icon attached to it showing what kind of encounter it's going to trigger. Right now there is just a town encounter and combat encounter. Alright, this looks a bit better, but it's still missing a background. I started off by making some truly hideous eye-castrating stuff.
Número 1. Número 2. Número 3.
Yep, that fucking sucked, so instead I searched for some reference. I wanted a map that would look regional, something like a tourist map, but it had to be medieval, so I took my probably favorite game, Kingdom Come Deliverance, and used that. First I made a frame. Seems good, so I continued with the paper part, which also was pretty good, but it lacked something. I tried using these light beams to add more life, but no. So I was like, what if Farmer just stood there and yeah, hit gold. Next step was figuring out the post-processing, cause the default settings were overkilling it with the vignette and bloom effects. Everything was too dark, so I just disabled it while in map view. But now the colors were too bland, so I opted out for weaker vignettes and no bloom. The visual part of the map is kinda done, but gameplay wise the map doesn't do shit. Time to rewrite the generation system. Imagine you have just started up the game, you are met with a map screen where you can see what's ahead of you, and have a first choice, which isn't a really choice in this case. You select it and screen transitions into the town encounter. Once you have finished your business here, you can go through this passage which transitions you back to the map. You once again make a choice and so on. Everything works, no bugs so far, but there are two issues. First, I don't like the transitions, they could be faster and less interruptive. Second, the map needs to display your position on it. Your position will be represented by a wooden figure of the mercenary you are playing as. The first sketch sucked, the second one was better. I figured out that I could just remove all of his limbs. After seeing it in game, I was left satisfied and started making a rig for him, cause I want animations. I want all of his leftover limbs in motions, the torso, head, maybe his face if you count it as a limb. This little guy has idle move animation, which in game looks like this. Where do you think you are going? I handled the logic behind his movement and changed it so he makes these jumps. After selecting a location, you could still interact with stuff, which would break this little guy and break everything, which is not cool. So now, while this animation is happening, your inputs are completely ignored. On a different note, the way this world is structured is that you have a realm, which is basically a kingdom. The realm consists of regions, which are gonna work basically like biomes, you know, you're gonna have a forest, lake, underground, whatever, and each region consists of locations. Right now you are seeing the forest region, which I will eventually give a name, something like the Farmer's Refuge, Badlands, Weed, I don't know. This brings us closer towards the demo release, which I hate to be that guy, but the next devlog is not gonna be it. Maybe the next one, devlog 11, I have hope. Subscribe and bye bye.